in conversation with Mr. Sanjay Arora. Mr. Bharat Dabulkar is an actor, director, and writer born on 31st December 1969. He graduated as a law student but soon forayed into the world of advertising and started his career as a copywriter. He is the brain behind some of the most famous advertisement, hoarding, and marketing campaigns for Amul, Videocon, Fruity, Acme, Bailey, etc. His success in advertising has earned him a title of Father of English of Advertising World because of his knack for combining languages and writing ad copies. Being a curious and multi-talented person, Bharat Sir then ventured out into the world of theatres and films, supporting actors from life into a film. And he has worked as a supporting artist in some of the biggest films of Bollywood, such as Bantu Kapoor in 2001, Company in 2002, Tara Rampam in 2007, Veer in 2010, Exposed in 2014, Gaur Hari Dastan in 2015, Sarkar 3 in 2017, Sanju in 2018, and in Dabang 3 2019. It's an honor to have you with us, Mr. Bharat Navadkar. And this gets even more delightful as we have Mr. Sanjay Arora, who will be in conversation with him as the moderator. Mr. Sanjay Arora is a PhD in brand management, marketing communication, and consumer behavior, has an MBA, postgraduate qualification in public relations, and modules in brand management and digital marketing from IIM Bangalore. It was way back in 1987 he founded Shell's Advertising Incorporation, one of the India's largest advertising agencies, which boasts over a dozen creative awards for its creative campaigns. A little over 10 years, Shells became the first agency from the region to go overseas with a full-service branch in Dubai. A recipient of Vocational Excellence Award of Rotary International, his keen interest in academics and over 34 years of practical experience have made him a much in-demand faculty at various management institutes. He is on the board of studies of RTMNU, chair of board of directors of ISAC Nagpur, and board of advisors of Lebanon School of Entrepreneurship, TEDx.
That's it. The session is about him, so please, it gets a little embarrassing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much for those kind words. Okay, so the title of the session is very, very interesting. First of all, a very good evening to all of you all. And it's nice to see a large, young crowd because you're the ones who are going to be brave and better, right? And there's one person who epitomizes that brave feeling. You can see him. I was reading somewhere, his idol is Dara Singh. Correct me if I'm wrong. You mentioned this in some interview. His idol is Dara Singh, and he actually has, I think, built a body which is better than Dara Singh, if I'm not mistaken. So he's such a multi-faceted personality. I was asking the organizers a while ago. There are some 136 speakers who've been flown in local as well as from across the country for this literary festival here. So I was singularly lucky, fortunate to have Bharat with me for this session, right? Out of the 136, I didn't choose him, I was chosen for him, so that's destiny. And just glancing through what he has been doing all the while, there are striking parallels. I was talking to him. One, both of us started as client servicing people in different agencies, of course. So he's been there and here, right? So yeah, client servicing, and then veered into the creative areas of writing. That he's been the boxing champion of his university, right? Or the college. Was it the university? Yes. And of course, I was the boxing champion of my school, College India. So there are a lot of parallels I saw, and I said, this is uncanny. But then when I was speaking to him yesterday, I was in Pune yesterday, I just called him up. He said, I'm in Pune too. So I said, what for? He says he was shooting something. We'll of course get into the gravy train of advertising, etc. at a later point. But he was shooting for something in Pune. So Bharat, let's start from there itself. What keeps you occupied and what are these shoots that you are involved with right now?
Anything that comes my way keeps me occupied. Whatever people offer me, I take. Shooting, if people offer. There are two actors in this Bollywood who only do 2 films in a year. Amir Khan and me. The difference is Amir Khan gets about 2,000 films offered to him, he does 2 films. I get 2 films offered and what is his offer?
So what was this project yesterday?
Yesterday we are doing trilingual film. This guy Paritosh Painter who had done this film called Kamal. He's doing a trilingual film, Marathi, Hindi, and English. And there is Johnny Lever and Siddharth Jadhav, all these people. Vijay Patkar.
It's a trilingual film.
So we were shooting in Pune, we were shooting in Falta and then Pune. We finished yesterday at some 12 o'clock in the night. And we drove down to Mumbai and came here.
Okay. So
I do this, film is just a pastime, it's not a public interest too.
But you've also been doing a lot of web series and all those things.
No, I do films in, I've done film in Hindi, Marathi, Tamil with Rajnikant and Telugu with Nagarjuna and Malayalam with Mohanlal and Dilip. So I can act equally badly in 6 languages.
So you know how
I'm also acting in South Indian films because if I act badly, they feel that I'm acting badly because I don't understand the language. In Marathi and Hindi, they know that I understand the language and I still act badly.
So unless you're given a Filmfare award, you won't agree that you do a good job with it, right? So if anyone asks me about the Amul girl, we all have seen the Amul. We've grown up, okay, whatever our age, we've grown up with the Amul girl. Okay, she may have been initially conceived by somewhere else, but if Amul girl went to a school, it was a Dhabulkar school, right? That's where she learned the other.
If you know what Amul stands for, the word Amul. Amul stands for Anand Milk Union Limited. It was started years ago, and when Amul was launched by the farmers of Gujarat, Woolston's was the biggest brand of butter in the country. And the girl was conceived by Mr. Sylvester Tikuna, who was handling that advertising at that time. And there was, I believe, I never met him, a person called Eustace Fernandez, who drew the first Amul girl. And Mr. Tikuna wrote the jingle for the Amul, where the last 2 lines were, Amul is the answer to your wishes, it's utterly buttery delicious. So it was much before my time it was on. When I joined advertising and I started working on it, I think my only contribution was, I handled it for over 15 years, but was that I Indianized the Amul girl. And I made it more topical. They used to change the wording once in 2. I took it over and I started changing it once every 7 days or 10 days. And I would do a wording in Marathi, English, Gujarati, Tamil, Bengali. So I think I made it more Indian. So but the credit for whatever Amul is, was and will be, doesn't go to people like us. You can find creative people penny a dozen. The credit goes to a man called Dr. Kurian. He was the world's best client you could get. When he
Are there any clients here? Please listen to him.
He called us and said, look, I have a choice of some 400 agencies I can choose from. We've chosen your agency. I understand nothing in advertising. I understand milk and milk products. So don't show me what you do. The reason why Amul was so successful, so topical, was because we had a client like this. For instance, if you were sitting here today and there was a match going on, and if somebody scored a century, I would think of a line in front of the office and say, do a drawing like this. Tell the media guys to put a scaffolding, whitewash the hoarding and keep it. And by the time the newspapers came out tomorrow, there would be a joke on that century on the Amul hoarding. And people couldn't understand how it was done because it was painted overnight. That could only happen because of a client like Dr. Kurian. We didn't have to go and meet him tomorrow and get his approval.
So no approvals at all? No approvals?
In the agency also, except for me, the guy who drew the girl, and the media guy who sent the artwork, nobody knew what the Amul hoarding was.
So, weren't there various layers that you would probably go through?
There were no layers.
Account director
There were no layers. It was just 3 of us.
Okay.
So Amul became popular because of that. So the topicality. If I had to go to a client tomorrow morning and show it to him, and they would say, good idea, but let's have a look at an alternative. Then I would do an alternative and it will go Tuesday. Then again I'll go on Tuesday. Then he'll say, damn good, but can we have a look at a different background color? Then I'll go to Wednesday. So by Thursday, if the hoarding comes up,
it's lost all meaning. Yeah, it's lost all meaning.
Because it comes out tomorrow, it has that topicality.
So the counter question that comes to mind is, if that kind of a client allowed you complete freedom, and therefore Amul Butter was a brilliant, great success, is a great success even today, why would other agencies handling other Amul brands, like Promising Sandwich chocolates, etc., equally big successes, they would also probably have the same client and the same freedom?
Yeah. No, but the market situation, see, advertising is not as simple as what we did for Amul Butter. Amul Butter had 85% market share. So we could have that fun on the holdings. I launched other products for Amul. I launched Amul Milk, I launched Amul Chas, Lassi, milkshakes. There we couldn't do this. There we didn't have to show it to the client, but we had to do a whole process of advertising, finding out what is happening, which are the brands that we are fighting against, do a research. So that went through the whole process of what normally an advertising campaign goes through. Which Amul Butter was the only product in that whole category where we didn't have to do that.
You've done so many of those Amul holdings. Which ones, I mean, for mother, all children are alike, one stands out for you, something that was really, really brilliant in your opinion, the one known?
I would do about 45 holdings in a year.
Yeah, so any one
For
that you
about
felt, yeah, this
15
is
years.
brilliant.
Every time I wrote something, I thought it was brilliant. And after 15 days, I looked back, I thought it was pretty bad, and I could have done better. So there are lots of them. I remember when there was when Zahir Abbas was scoring us from Pakistan, he was scoring a century in every match that he played against us in the series in Pakistan. So I did a holding which said Zahir Abbas.
I remember this one.
And have some butter tea back at the Amul. And there was a match in Karachi and Zahir got out for 14 runs. So we put a banner on the hoarding saying, thank you Zahir for listening.
That's wonderful.
So we should do all these kind of things to have great fun doing that.
Continuing that, they're probably doing a hoarding a couple of days now. They're doing that for Amul Butter. They're doing a hoarding in 3 days, 4 days, sometimes just the other day, something happening. But how do you think it is in terms of comparison with what you all did and what is happening now?
Very honestly, I mean, should I give it a
absolutely. You're known to be blunt. You're known to be blunt.
I think what they're doing right now is mostly pretty bad. And I'll tell you why. Because Amul is an advertising campaign. The whole purpose of Amul is to advertise and have a link with the butter. It's not always possible, but if I was doing, say, 45, 50 hoardings in a year, my effort would be to make sure that I linked it up to a butter somewhere. So like if I'm saying Zahir Abbas, I would say, and have some utterly batterly Amul.
Right.
So it was linked up there.
Correct.
Nowadays I find what they're doing is they're just doing funny lines. There's no connect to the butter. They're just comments on what's happening. Now, Amul butter is not something that makes a social comment. It has to have a connect to the butter. I think that is what they're missing out.
Product relevance.
They're not striving hard enough.
Okay. But is I don't know whether you're still connected with the company in some way or the other. Does the culture still remain the same? They doesn't go to the client and they got free, Dakonas have got free.
Yeah, Dr. Kurian had set up that thing that nobody will interfere with what is happening in advertising because we don't know enough of advertising. So nobody interferes.
Even today. That's wonderful. That's nice. So, for people who are striving, the young students, about 60% of the hall I see are young students striving to be in advertising, he's made such an important point. Please note that. If the advertising, and even David Ogilvy said that, the advertising doesn't have to attract attention to itself, but the sole job of advertising is to sell the product. So even the hoarding may be very clever, what they're doing now, but the product connect has been lost. Am I right?
Which is what I think is going wrong with a lot of digital advertising.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that too, yes.
Digital, what is happening is, we had this limit of 30 seconds. We had to do entertain, sell, do whatever we wanted in about 20 to 30 seconds. So we had limitation of time. When digital advertising came, social media advertising came, you could do a film for 3 minutes or 4 minutes. So people have started doing wonderfully emotional films now, 4-minute films. But the product comes at the end of the film. And if you remove that product and replace it with somebody else, it will still hold true.
True.
And so I think these are great films, these are not great advertising campaigns. See, a good advertising campaign has to grow out of the product. You remove the product and the campaign should stand. I've seen lots of these. I saw recently some 3 films of Chichades of Pune. Brilliant advertising films, brilliant films. But if you remove the Chichade in the end and put some PN jewelers, it will still be as good. Which means it's not a good campaign. It's a good film. So I think what is happening is 4-5 minute time that people are getting now, they're all taking out their creative juices to do some great emotional films and they get brilliant actors to do it. But that's not what makes a good campaign.
You gave me an example where we were talking with the Kotel below about that Fevikwik, so you can relate to that.
Fevikwik. All of you must have seen that, it's an old ad of that farmer, that fisherman sitting there, he puts 4 drops of Fevikwik on the thing and catches 4 fish. Now, if Fevikwik was removed from that, the ad doesn't stand. it's around Fevikwik and the properties of Fevikwik. These digital advertising aren't doing that.
They can, but probably
They can, but they're not. They are getting into this whole creative thing of showing how beautiful you can do a film.
You were also mentioning the Cred film, yeah.
The Cred campaign, the initial campaign, I think was very good from the recent lot that I've seen. But a good campaign has to stand. The product has to be the central point of the campaign. That means if the product is removed, the campaign shouldn't make sense.
Should actually not stand at all. So, youngsters, again, the whole point here is advertising is not to draw attention to itself, not to only entertain, but and only but sell the product. That is not
See,
happening.
advertising is not fine arts.
Yeah.
A painting is a fine art. A poetry is fine art. You can do what you want to do. Advertising is commercial art. You are here to sell a product, which means that you're asking someone to pay money and buy them. So you're a part of marketing. This is not to show your creativity.
Right.
That's why advertising has to be as simple as it can. The most effective advertising is the simplest advertising.
Correct.
The best advertising board which I had seen was in Hong Kong. It said, seedless grapes, very sweet, available here. I thought that was the best campaign I've seen, best line I've seen. If an advertising guy like me had to do it, we would say, nature's beautiful bounty now brought to you in its most pristine form. It means nothing to anyone.
Yeah, completely.
But we would try and be creative. You want to say seedless grapes, say seedless grapes. You want to say they're sweet, say they're sweet. Why get into trying to make it poetic? So everybody in advertising people feel that if you're in advertising, you can't write what everybody else can write. You want to do something better.
Exactly.
This is where it goes
So
wrong.
how would you balance this with differentiation? For example, there would be 10 guys selling those seedless sweet grapes. If all of them said the same thing, how would you build brands? How would you differentiate?
I'll tell you, I launched Hit Cockroach. The red.
Yeah.
No, the month we were launching Hit, they were also launching Bayer, was launching Big On. The Bayer is a far bigger company. Bayer had, I think, 10 times the budget that we had. So they made some 8 fantastic films about how to kill cockroaches and ladies sitting there, the child is playing someplace, and the hand extends and goes and does all that. What we did is we had, in our newspaper ads, I remember, if you opened the paper, the left side was full of cockroaches. We had shot actual cockroaches. They looked as if they're crawling on the paper.
Yeah.
And it said cockroach. On the right side, it was fully white with just a red hit can, and it said hit cockroach, no cockroach. The point is, you don't have to tell people that cockroaches are bad. They know it's bad. That's why they're buying the damn product. So why waste time telling them that cockroaches cause diseases, they're pretty bad? Just say cockroach, hit cockroach, no cockroach. If you can do that, you cut through the clutter.
You know why you got those 11 awards? 11, am I right?
14.
14, my mistake. So 14 awards for his, and which was, if you can just tell us a little more about that.
No, 14. And what did I won is 14. I don't think I won.
Which was these were the
What
Emmys?
is simplicity is, what I'm trying to say is, don't try and be creative, try and be simple. Advertising is an arm of marketing. So one is, stick to what you are paid for, stick to what you are there for. In fact, in the last 1 month, I've gone on many television debates when that Tanishq ad came up and
Yeah.
then that some other ad came up. And I kept on making the point that advertising's job is to sell a product. We are not here to make a social comment. We are not here to talk about future of whether it is Hindu-Muslim unity or whatever. We are here to sell a product. Don't get into all that. You have 30 seconds. Stick to selling your product and tell the consumer, our product is better than your product. And make them buy it. It is, films can do all this. Theatre can do all this. They can get into social reforms, unity. That's not our job. Our job is to sell a product and we must never forget that.
So you're also known as the father of English, like you also mentioned. And this has really caught on. And there are so many English ads being done, whether they make sense or don't make sense currently. How do you rate them?
See, I think advertising has more creative people than they had during our times. There are more youngsters. Advertising is actually a business of young people.
Right.
It's all about innovation. You have to keep on thinking of new things. So it's young people who can think better of new things. I think there are today more creative people, young people in advertising than during our times. I think there are bad clients nowadays. You know, we had clients like, as I said, Dr. Kurian. we had, I used to handle all Tata Tea brands. I launched all of them directly. So we had Mr. Krishna Kumar, who was the managing director of Tata Tea. I launched all the Parley brands. So we had Mr. Chauhan. They gave us a complete free hand. I think today's youngsters need to go through different layers of approval.
Oh, that's very sad.
So you go to somebody, there's an advertising manager, then there's a marketing manager, there's a general manager marketing, then there's a managing director. So that idea gets fractured by the time you go. So it's not the fault of the creative people, it's the fault of the clients. I think the clients improve advertising with it.
But I think to some extent the situation is bad. Even if you remember Legendary David Ogilvy's book, he says that most of the advertising that comes out looks like a committee's minutes to meeting report.
Yeah, in fact, on my email, if I send it to you, there's a permanent line. It says, a camel is a horse designed by a committee. If a committee says, let's design a horse, they'll never have a horse. Then somebody will say, let's make the legs a little longer. Somebody will say, let's give him a hump on the back so you can hold on to it. So at the end of it, you won't get a horse, you'll get a camel. So a committee should never get into approving advertising. There should be a one man, whoever is in charge of that.
So one more thing, if any questions crop up about the subject, because he's a multifaceted personality, we're right now talking about advertising, we'll get into theatre, we'll get into films as we move on. So if there are any questions, anyone about a subject, yeah, I see one hand there. If you can get that mic to him, please.
Give him the mic.
Yeah? Or you want to come here and ask the question?
Yeah.
I don't know which way is easier for them. You can come here till now.
Give him the mic.
So, about advertising, if you have any questions, because once we move from advertising, I don't know whether you'll be able to touch upon that subject.
Hello. Hello, so myself Hardik from Nagpur. I have for regarding Kadaknath Bitters. Have you heard Kadaknath Bitters black chicken? Yes. So how is my comment, sir? Live life healthy.
I didn't understand it.
Live life healthy.
Live life healthy
Yes.
is what?
This is a product which has enough proteins and vitamins and low cholesterol. It's also.
What is your question?
My question is regarding the comment, sir.
Regarding
my thought.
Thought?
Yes.
What thought?
Kadaknath Bitters. Live life healthy.
Live life
So how
healthy.
is
He's wanting you to read his slogan.
Yeah, if it's, see, advertising can never exaggerate and tell lies. If there's a truth that by eating that,
Yes.
your life would be healthier,
Yes.
then that's great advertising. See, advertising can never tell a lie. A real estate agent can tell a lie. He can tell you from this flat, you'll get sea view, you'll get beautiful sunshine in the morning, and it won't get that, but then that's fine, you're only buying one flat. In advertising, if I tell you a lie, and if I say I'm telling you this chicken is healthier, and if I find it's not healthy, I won't buy it the second time.
Yes.
And then you need me to buy that, you need him to buy it.
Okay.
So advertising has to be honest.
Yes,
It cannot lie. So if that's the honest thing, then it's done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Give it.
Please.
Hi, I'm Ashutosh Makri. Sir, you spoke about limited budgets. Now, my question is,
Can we please have the mobile on silent, please?
how can the split be found? That whether because of a good Amul ad or the latest version of Cadbury's, the female one, does it translate into? I mean, has the ad made the impact of increased sales as a finance person? And just extension, on one side, the millennials are having very little time span, and on the other side, the creative ads are becoming films. So, is this not a dichotomy?
No, but that is the wrong thing. See, what happens is advertising works on two principles. One is that I keep bombarding your mind with it. If you're watching an IPL match, after every over you will see that ad coming. It's irritating, but the brand name, the slogan makes an impact on your mind. When you see on social media a 4-minute fantastic film, next time you're going to again sit and watch that film for 4 minutes. You know what the film is about. So that reputation goes away. And if there's no reputation, there's no brand recall. It has to be constantly hitting your mind. And because you have limited budgets, the point that you made, you need to be different. If Amul, when they launched it as a farmers cooperative, if they had gone the same way any other butter goes, that we have beautiful, very tasty, golden colored butter which will make your breakfast very tasteful, it would never work. They had to do something completely different. No, you can never tell them. There are parameters they say, but see, advertising, you may have a fantastic ad which will create a sort of awareness in the consumer's mind. But if it's not distributed properly, if it is not priced properly, you won't buy it. Let's say you see an ad for a fantastic shampoo, and then you go and you want to buy it, it's not available in the shop. You buy something else. You're not going to keep on going from shop to shop to buy that. So distribution, pricing, everything, packaging, everything comes into it. Advertising is just a small part of it. It can create awareness, it can create a want. But it does not mean that if you have a great ad, that you will have a great sales from it. Other factors have to come in.
Another thing I wanted to ask you is, now this Amul girl has lasted maybe 4-5 decades. How long into the future do you see her being relevant?
As long as they keep it going creatively, go on. I'll tell you what happens with live models. They have limited lifespan. Because those, like I had launched Nutra, which is another brand of Amuls, and I launched it with Jugal Hansraj, who was a child at that time. But when he grew up, we couldn't use it. We had to get somebody else. So advertising with animated figures can go on forever. If they're creative. But advertising with, that's why Lux, Lux Supreme, which their line was Filmisita Unka Saab. The line continued. The Filmisita kept on changing. So if Madhuri Dixit was famous at that time, they would use her. Then if she became not relevant and Katrina Kaif was, so the line remained the same, that film stars used this soap. But the film stars kept on changing. You have to keep doing that. This Amul Butter, that girl can go on forever.
So now sticking to the advertising part of it, how did you when you were a child going to school, college, did you always want to be in advertising?
I never wanted to be in advertising. From my childhood till today, my lifelong ambition was to be a police officer. I was an IPS exam.
Okay.
That was my ambition.
Okay.
And I'm a lawyer by education. I'm a lawyer, I'm a business management graduate. Advertising was never
on your radar at all?
No.
Yeah, so
I just got into it and then.
How did it happen?
You know, I was working as a management trainee in one of the Tata companies, Forbes Capital. And they have many companies. And they have all these agencies used to come and make presentations to them. And I used to keep on looking at them and saying they're pretty bad. Yeah, I can do better than this. This is pretty not good at all. So these guys would come and tease me and say, instead of sitting and talking, why don't you join an agency and create the campaigns? So I started applying to agencies and nobody wanted me. Then you're a lawyer, why should we take you? What have you got to do in advertising? Then thankfully somebody hired me. So reluctantly I got it.
So the first agency that
I would still, when I meet these police commissioners and things like that, I still feel bad that I didn't become one of those. And I look more like a policeman than they do.
Oh, you do that is for sure. Have you played a policeman's character in some film or series?
Yeah, I just did in Dabangg 3 I did.
Oh, okay.
2-minute role. That's because Salman is a friend of mine. So when I was, when he launched Dabangg 3, I told him, congratulations, I always do that. So he sent me and said, you want to play a cop, huh? Then started the shooting. The shooting was going on in Indore.
Okay.
So I said, yeah, maybe in Dabangg 4. But he's Salman Khan. If he tells those guys, give Bharat the role, they bloody well stop it and give Bharat the role. So I get a call from 4 people saying, sir, आप इंदौर कब आ सकते हैं? I said, क्या है? He said, आपको पुलिस का रोल देना है. I said, फिल्म चालू हुई आप? He said, नहीं सर, भाई ने बोला है कि आपको बुलाना है.
भाई ने बोला.
So I just went there, I stand behind him, I have 2 lines to speak. Then he said, I'm doing a dance, sir. मुन्ना बदनाम हुआ. Dance करना उसके साथ. So I am the dance. If you see the dance, you will see me dancing.
Okay.
So this is
that's hilarious and that's wonderful. Yeah, of course. So, okay, we'll get to that in greater detail in a while. But sticking to advertising for a moment again. So, from client servicing, that your first agency was Dakunda, right?
Yeah.
And then you joined in client servicing. So, how did you graduate or shift?
See, as I said, I did my schooling in Marathi. That will come to later if you want.
Yes.
So I could speak Marathi, I read and write Marathi, I read and write and speak Gujarati, I speak Kutchi, I speak Hindi. So when I started doing advertising, we had great clients. We had LIC, Bank of India, State Bank of India, Amul, Hubbardson, which is Vijay Mallya's company. So I used to go there as a client servicing guy. And you know how creative guys are. They have their own egos.
Yeah, huge.
So instead of sitting and dealing with them, I started writing myself. And clients are approving that. So it was easy for everybody in the agency. That this guy would go to the client, get a brief, write it himself and go and sell it. So that's how it
So you were fortunate to have started in a smaller.
When you have a smaller agency, that happens. There are bigger agencies, they have watertight compartments. So they don't. A client servicing guy can't do creative. A creative guy can't do this. They are watertight compartments.
Yes.
In a smaller agencies, they are fluid.
That helped you a little. So getting back to your early childhood again, which kind of school did you go to?
I went to a Marathi medium school. I did my entire schooling in Marathi. I said that thousands of times, but I'll say it again. I did my entire schooling in Marathi. I could not speak a single sentence in English till I came to college. And I joined Elphinstone College, which was one of those, that time Xavier and Elphinstone were these super sophisticated South Bombay colleges. And I joined first year arts. And I had 145 prettiest girls in Mumbai in my class, and 5 boys. Out of those 5 boys, one was blind. One was our principal's son. So his parents stayed on the top floor. So he couldn't be seen talking to girls because either his mother or father would be watching him saying, Abhyas nahi kar raha tha. The third was very studious. He was only interested in studies. So that left 2 of us who were interested in girls. And you don't have to believe this, but I was better looking than that guy. But the problem is that guy could speak English. I couldn't speak a sentence. If a girl came to me and said, Bharat, you want to come to the next lecture and go for a film? I would answer that in my mind in Marathi first. Then I would translate that. I have told my mother I will be home for lunch, so I cannot come. Then I'd say it 2-3 times to make sure my pronunciations are right. So by the time I had an answer, that girl would go for a film and come out. So I had 145 reasons to learn English fast.
So there has to be a statutory warning to this. You don't have to believe everything that Bharat says.
The only thing that happened was.
So he's censoring a lot of it. What films he went to and what he did. Okay.
No, but this is a fact. What happened then was I realized that all of us who come from vernacular medium schools, we know English. It's not that we don't know English.
Yeah.
We have a problem with spoken English because when we start speaking, we don't know what is the correct word to use in a sentence. So we feel shy. So I said, look, there's nothing like perfect English. Nobody in the world speaks perfect. There's nothing like perfect English. Even in England, there is a Scottish accent and an Irish accent and a Cockney accent and whatever. Now, I know Marathi, I know Hindi, I know Gujarati. So I said, if I don't know English word, I'll use a Marathi word. So in my college, I started doing that. So in my sentences, I would use a Hindi word, Marathi word, Gujarati word. Actually, later on, somebody gave it a fashionable name and called it English. And said, Bharat Dawankar is the father of India. I had a handicap. I couldn't speak both those languages. So I know you're not being a father of a language. I had no question. I had to do this. But that worked for me in college. It worked for me in advertising and it worked for me in theatre. This mixture of
languages. So coming to theatre now, I believe you were the only one because like advertising, the world before you, there were doyens of English like Frank Simos, etc. who were
Alec
Baldwin, purebred in a way, right? So theatre was similar, right? English, I'm talking about English
theatre. I used to say it that time also, and I say it now. English theatre was like a Xerox machine. Whatever was happening in a foreign country, they would exactly bring it here, same costume, same names, and do the same thing here. And you would get some Parsi actors, and they would come in for the first 15 minutes, they would talk in proper English. Then they would get into Parsi accent. So that was the English theatre that time. So what happened was people who understood Marathi saw Marathi theatre. People who understood Gujarati saw Gujarati theatre. So people did not come to see an English play except for a few limited audience. So it couldn't do more than 20-25 shows.
Right.
So when I started doing theatre, I only took actors from regional theatre. From Marathi, Hindi, Gujarati. And they were brilliant actors. English theatre never had actors of that caliber. Parsi theatre. We had people like Barjot Patel and Ruby Patel. They were brilliant actors, O.C. Vasunia. No, English theatre didn't have those kinds of actors. So my plays worked because of that.
So tell us more about your plays, those plays that you brought other language theatre people into it and how they became stars in your
See, my first play I wrote was a play, I don't know if people would not know, one of the legendary writers in Marathi is P.L. Deshpande. My first play was Tuja Hai Tujapashi was one of his biggest hits. I did that in English. I wrote to P.L. Deshpande and said, may I have your permission to do this play? I want to do it in English. Now that play had Urdu shairi in it. It had Bhagavad Gita shloks in it. So no producer in Mumbai was willing to produce that play. I talked to everybody. I talked to Alec Badamsi, Bajor Patel, who were big producers. And they said, Bharat, this won't work in the English theatre. You can't have Shairi and you can't have Bhagavad Gita shloks and things in an English play. I wrote to P.L. Deshpande and I said, sir, I have to do this play in English. And he said, don't even attempt it. My play has been done in Hindi, Gujarati, it hasn't got the flavor of the original play. So English to sawal hi nahi. So I told him, sir, I'm in advertising, I've just joined advertising, I've written the play. I'll send it to you. If you say don't do it, I won't do it. So I sent my script to P.L. Deshpande. And he wrote a letter to me saying, Bharat, do this play without changing a single word. Because this is the language the whole of India will be speaking 10 years from now.
Oh,
He's the only one who understood that.
wow. What vision.
And I took everybody from different theatres. I had Manmohan Krishna, who was from Bollywood. So we had Manmohan Krishna, Harish Patel, Mohan Bhandari, Shahnaz Patel, Ansu Mehta from Gujarati. So they were all from different theatres. And that play was a huge success. And then I did a play called Bottoms Up.
Bottoms Up, yeah.
The Bottoms Up till today is the longest running play in the history of English theatre. It kept on running, it created stars. I mean, people like Shamak Davar was just a dancer in my play. So he came and said, Bharat, I can sing, can I sing a song in your play? Srin Talab was a dancer, she said, Bharat, can I sing a song? Javed Jafri was a dancer.
Yeah.
Shahid Kapoor was a dancer. So he came and then Arshad Parsi was a dancer.
So all these
guys were young guys who started in these kind of plays and went on and became.
So the break was given by him. So you need any breaks? You know who
but break doesn't come. I had 12 dancers in every play. How come only one guy becomes Shamak Davar? I had 12 dancers. How come one guy becomes Shahid Kapoor? It's not the break, it's the initiative that they have and the push that they have.
You were also talking to me and telling me about that Mr. Patel who got into Bollywood. He's he got you from London.
Who?
The guy who was doing something.
Harish Patel. Harish Patel was a guy who used to act with Shafi Inamdar in the Hindi play.
Yeah.
So I wanted him to do the main role in this, my version of Tudai Tulbashi in English. So I called up Harish and I said, Harish, I want you to do the play. And he says, Bharat, I can't speak English. I'm from Marwadi Vidyalaya. मैं हिंदी प्ले करता हूँ अंग्रेजी नहीं आती मुझे. I said, look, I'll rehearse with you. He said, Bharat, but my accent is wrong. I said, that's the accent I want. He said, suppose I forget a line on stage, what do I do? I said, speak in Hindi, that line. So he did that. He became a star in our play. And then he went to London. Last year or a year before, he won the Shakespeare Award for an English play. And this year, he acted in a Hollywood film with Angelina Jolie. Eternal. And he sent me a message saying, I remembered you, Bharat, because I was this Marwadi Vidyalaya guy who didn't want to act in an English play. And 2 years ago, I won the Shakespeare Award in London. And today I'm acting with Hollywood stars. So it's all a question of their determination.
Yes.
Everybody gets breaks. What they do with it. And but actually the point is, these guys have gone ahead. I'm still where I am.
No. Let's again your
नए आदमी आके करते थे और वो अरशद वारसी is the star, Shahid Kapoor is the biggest star, and Javed Jafri is the star. Shamak Davar has 10,000 students. I'm still doing what I was doing then.
You are living life, right?
Having fun.
Yes, please. There's a question. Any question, please feel free to ask. Let it be an interactive session.
I'll be launching to all the opportunities you give for questions. but sir, two things. One, talking of brands, can I ask?
Please.
Two brands, if you could say, brand Salman Khan and brand Shiv Sena.
Brand Shiv Sena.
Yeah, because there was a time when one of your ad was criticized by Shiv Senics and then Bala Sahib himself said he चांगलं आहे वगैरे.
Yeah, see, I'll tell you that incident.
जाणता राजा इंग्लिश मध्ये केलं त्याचे.
Yeah. Now I used to do hoardings in Marathi during Ganpati. So once I had a beautiful picture of Ganpati, the statue of Ganpati, and the girl was standing in front of him, and she was having a slice of butter on a plate, and you normally say Ganpati Bappa Moria. So I had Ganpati with slice of bread in his hand, And the line was Ganpati Bappa more kya?
Yeah.
Take more. So that hoarding went up, and I got a letter from a lawyer in Mumbai. So 20-page letter saying that I'm a regular consumer of Amul butter, but the latest hoarding has hurt my religious feelings. In Hinduism, you cannot show a Hindu god holding bread in his hand. Because in his letter he said in the olden days, Christian missionaries would throw a slice of bread in a well. And if you drank water from that well, you got converted to Christianity. So because you've shown the god holding bread, I write to inform you that I've stopped eating Amul butter from today. Then he added a proviso. He said, but if you give me your word that you will never repeat this hoarding again, I may reconsider my decision. I will never repeat hoarding. I said, why tell me never do it? So I wrote him a small 4-line letter saying, the idea was not to hurt your feelings. I said, Ganpati is a fun god. Other gods are quite frozen. Ram is Ram, Lakshman, Sita, Hanuman. That's a frozen figure. Krishna is Radha Krishna. But Ganpati is shown as a cricketer, he plays the guitar, he dances, he does all kinds of things. But I said, if it has hurt your feelings, I give you my personal assurance, I'll never repeat this holding again. That guy sent me a 30-page letter. But the lawyers can't write briefly, you know. You can't say, okay, I agree or disagree. He said, I referred to my earlier letter dated so and so, and I had mentioned all, he mentioned all the points again. Thereafter, I referred to my, your reply to that letter saying, I reproduced my reply. And again, he said, on the basis of your assurance, I am happy to inform you that I have started eating Amul butter again. So that year we got that guy back. So next year when I did the Amul holding, I had the same Ganpati Murti. He had nothing in his hand that he shouldn't have. The normal Murti, whatever it has, it had there. The girl had an empty plate. And the line was Ganpati Bappa more there. Give me more. Now I said that holding can't get us into trouble because Ganpati Murti is exactly as it should be. Girl has got nothing in her plate. The Amul Mumbai office got a call from somebody who said, I'm calling from the Shiv Sena Shakha, I'm the Shakha Pramukh of Chowpatty. If you don't remove this hoarding in the next 48 hours, we'll burn it down. So the Gilman said, look, there's a threat. Let's change the hoarding. I said, let's not be in a hurry. Let's try and talk to somebody in Shiv Sena. I didn't know anybody in Shiv Sena that time. I know all of them now. So I tried to get the list of Shiv Sena leaders. Chhagan Bhujbal, all those guys were in Shiv Sena that time. Manoj Joshi, Chhagan Bhujbal, Sudhir Joshi, Pramod Navalkar, nobody was available. So in desperation, I phoned up Balasaheb Thackeray. And I said, sir, can I get an appointment to come and see you? And he said, I come to Shiv Sena Bhavan tomorrow morning. So I took that copy of the hoarding and I went to him. And I said, sir, what's wrong with this hoarding? And he said, nothing. I'm a cartoonist myself. I'm a big fan of Amul butter hoarding. I don't think anybody from Shiv Sena will threaten this, but if you're scared, I'll tell the Shakha Pramukh to give you protection. So I came to the office and I said, I spoke to Balasaheb and he said he'll ask the Shakha Pramukh to give us protection for the hoarding. So he said, no, but Shakha Pramukh has called up and said that he'll burn the hoarding. So we had a long discussion. And I said, look, I'll tell you what, let's keep the hoarding. Let's hope somebody burns it down. If they burn it down, what will happen? In the next 5 minutes, people like Arnab Goswami, Rajiv Sardesai, Varkha, they'll all be there. For the next 10 days, there will be nothing on television except what is happening to our country. They'll call me for a discussion, they'll call Dr. Kurian for it. I said, don't have that kind of budget to advertise. Free advertising. So Amul, the Ganpati hoarding, which I would normally remove in 10 days, I kept on for 25 days. Even if I was outside the office, I would phone them, "Usne jalaya kya?" And they would tell me, "Sir, aisa kya hai?" After 25 days, we had to pull it down. So after that year, I did not do ever a hoarding on Ganpati again. Because I think what is happening is we are getting a bit too insensitive about these things. You can't say anything about Hinduism, Christianity, Islam. Anything that you say, people find some fault in that. So two things keep away from. One is religion and second is women. No matter what you say about women, somebody comes and says that this is wrong, they're doing sexist. So stick to sports, stick to cricket, stick to football. Just say that nobody objects to anything.
But don't you think you've become oversensitive as a society or hypocrisy more than oversensitive?
That is because of social media. You see what is happening is now social media gives you, it spreads like wildfire. Earlier, your friends would know if you don't like something. Who would know? Now social media, the whole thing becomes a national issue. This is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. The freedom is lost to express in terms of advertising also.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing, if you stay away from religion and women, the you're fine. You can do what you want. Nobody will object to anything that is religion. Don't touch it. Whether it's Hindu, Muslim, Christian.
Politics has become equally sensitive today. You mentioned something.
No, politics is easy. If you say something nasty about Modi, you're safe.
Why do you get trolls?
Don't say anything bad about anybody else. Modi, you can say what you want. I call him a Teflon politician. Nothing happens. I had done that line for him. Abki baar Modi Sarkar. I never got the credit or money for that. So that registered in my
I was going to come to that. You can please tell about that.
So I had done many lines. At that time we didn't know that Modi was the BJP choice. So we had done Abki baar Modi Sarkar, Abki baar BJP Sarkar. जब कांग्रेस आई है कमर तोड़ महंगाई है all kind of things. Then finally they approved this line. But I would go and help all the other parties also. 4 months ago I helped Aam Aadmi Party open their office in Mumbai.
Oh really? How was that? Tell us about that. Yeah.
Huh?
How did that happen?
Aam Aadmi Party, then I said anybody wants to do some good work, I'll help you. I'll vote for Modi, but I'll help them. हाँ. Then somebody had me for a talk. Somebody said, "Sir, अभी आपको फिर से करना है तो क्या करेंगे मोदी की लाइन?" I said, "I can't think of it. I can say हर बार मोदी सरकार." But honestly speaking, that line is not very creative because you can replace Modi with anything else. Even that time when we were doing this, it was आपकी बार जेटली सरकार, आपकी बार सुषमा स्वराज सरकार. The best line was when Atal Bihari Vajpayee's campaign was on. That line was Abki Bari Atal Bihari.
Yeah.
Or when Jayaprakash Narayan was there, it was Andheri mein ek Prakash, Jayaprakash, Jayaprakash. Those were lines which were brilliant. Abki Bari Modi Sarkar is okay.
But it worked.
It worked. Yeah.
So many.
But slogans always work in politics. When Indira Gandhi did Garibi Hatao, that worked. When you said Chale Jao, Bharat, anything that is a slogan, people don't remember speeches.
Yeah.
They remember slogans. So it's like advertising for political parties is the same as advertising for a product.
Political personality branding has become a huge business now.
Because of television. See, because of television, earlier we had, but no political leader had that kind of exposure. I think Indira Gandhi was a great brand at one point of time.
Yes.
Although, according to me, I wrote a book on, not a book, a chapter on this. The best marketed brand in a good way was Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay.
Mahatma Gandhi did everything right. Whatever we think of, packaging, slogan. See, Mahatma Gandhi could have gone like everybody else, kurta and pajama, or chudidar and or dhoti or whatever. Why did he dress up like that? That's what's called packaging. That packaging has to say something about you. He didn't think about traveling with poor people, I'm the man of the masses, third class and travel. So he did everything right.
Without a plan, probably.
Without any media support at that time.
Yes.
He had a photographer. I was helping Raj Thackeray do a photo biography of Raj Thackeray. So I used to go and sit in his house and he showed me all the photographs of Raj Thackeray and they all look so common. Some rallies, Raj Thackeray with his family, with the Alsatian dog. I said, all of us have those kinds of photographs. So I asked Raj, I said, don't you have some more interesting photographs? He said, who has more interesting photographs? The only person who had was Mahatma Gandhi. He had a photographer with him for 24 hours at that time.
Oh really? Is that true?
So Mahatma Gandhi's photographs, you find Mahatma Gandhi thinking, Mahatma Gandhi shaving.
Oh really? I didn't know this.
The kind of photographs that Mahatma Gandhi has, he showed me the books. He says, which other leader would have photographs like this?
So Modi is following him.
Modi is following him.
Really? Yeah. So okay, I just indicated that our time is more or less done with. Yeah. So but one last bit about that check. One can talk to him for hours, of course, but one doesn't have that kind of liberty here. About the auto rickshaw please. He used to go to his office, he bought an auto rickshaw. Can we have it from you?
That's a long story.
Yeah. Advertising 30 seconds.
Long back in life, that no matter how much money we earn, we can't afford a Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce costs about 10 crores or 12 crores. You can afford a Mercedes. You can get a second-hand Mercedes for 3 crores or for 3 lakhs or 4 lakhs. You can buy a BMW, you can buy an Audi. You can't ever think of owning a Rolls Royce. So if you buy a Mercedes, there's no big deal. There's 10,000 Mercedes on the road. So I said, let's buy an auto rickshaw. So I thought auto rickshaw is very cheap. At that time, this is about 15 years back, I found that the Bajaj auto rickshaw without the hook was costing some 1,20,000 rupees. So I said, I don't spend so much money on an auto rickshaw. So I bought a second-hand auto rickshaw for 17,000 rupees. Then I put the Chor Bazaar and I bought the Maruti seat and put it inside. Then I went and it's completely open. It's got an acrylic top. Then I had a house in Worli that time in Mumbai. So I found a chap who makes those Harley Davidson stickers. And I made a sticker called Worli Davidson. And I put it on the rickshaw. And I got a license and RTO laughed at me. Sir, I said, no, I want to ride a rickshaw. I can take it anywhere in Mumbai. And I get more people coming and taking photographs of the rickshaw than if I had a Rolls Royce.
You went to the
I always tell people don't get rich, be creative.
Exactly.
You're better off.
So as you can see, we can go on and on, but yeah, there's another session to happen here, so we need to end here. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as I've enjoyed talking to you. Thanks so much for this. Have a lovely afternoon. Thanks a lot.
What a fun session. Please give them a big round of applause. At last, I would like to thank Mr. Bharat Dabolkar and Sanjay Arora for joining us today. We wish to get to hear you all again and equally enlightened as we all are today. And for my dear massive audience, I'm sure that after witnessing this conversation, you all are to be taking home an enriched perspective with you today, just as I am. Thank you for joining us today. Until I see you again, this is Yash Dixit signing off.
Welcome to Rai Sony Group, a vision beyond.